Hi, I'm Dana, and today we're talking about autistic capability, and specifically my autistic capability because that's all I can talk about. I only have my own experience as an autistic person. I'm not trying to speak on behalf of the community, I'm not trying to talk on the behalf of anybody but myself. And I would hope that it's a little bit relatable to some of you, and that I'm not the only person that feels this kind of stuff and has been through these kinds of things, but if I am, then so be it, That's the way the cookie crumbles. I've moved over slightly because of that one spot of sun, but my curtain is only so big and doesn't cover the entire window, so I'm just gonna have to live with it, and so are you. But yeah, so as with a lot of my videos, we're going to start with childhood, because I think, to be honest with you, that's where most of my issues began. So from a very young age, I was seen as being extremely capable and essentially treated like an adult, because my parents couldn't be bothered. To be fair, as a young child, it was a mix of they couldn't be bothered and they also didn't have the time. So I don't even remember how old I was when I started doing things like making my own dinners and breakfasts and just generally sorting myself out because no one else was there to do it for me, My parents got around a lot of things because my dad was nearly always home. He worked from home for a lot of my childhood. So he was always there, but he didn't have a clue how to cook either. He played mahjong. He just sat in his office and played mahjong, and I may as well have not existed to him. So it was a case of either become capable and figure out how to wash my uniform for tomorrow so I don't get bullied for being smelly or dirty or whatever else, figuring out how to cook my own meals, just generally taking care of myself from a very young age. So I very quickly learned how to do the general basic care for myself stuff, but I was still autistic, and the anxiety and the social aspects and the unpredictable aspects of life have always been the parts that I struggled most with. So I had stomach aches every single morning that I went to school, and I've had so many people are like, oh well, how come you managed to go to a mainstream school? How did you maintain that? How did you keep that up? And it's I would be in full-thrown meltdown in the morning. My mum would have my dad carry me out to the car. We would get to school. My dad would sometimes come with us so he could carry me out onto the playground and leave me there. Or she would get teachers and just random other parents and whoever was there to help her carry me onto the playground and just fucking leave me there, And teachers would eventually come over. I got really close with my primary school's playground lunchtime warden people, because this just happened all the fucking time. I would be full-on meltdown and my parents were just she's in school now, it's not our fucking issue, and I was just left there, and it would be up to teachers and other adults that were there to take me inside and put me in the library and give me some juice and be like, are you all right, hon, and get me settled and ready to actually start the day. I did not have the option of not going to school. And as I got further into my teen years, I definitely tried to push that a bit more and be I can't do this, this is too fucking much for me. I don't understand how everyone else is just coping and managing and to some point even enjoying some of this. I was just so overwhelmed and on edge and fight or flight. It was too much all the time, but I had no other option, I think a really good example, which is trigger warning for parental abuse. When we first moved back to the UK after living in Denmark for a few years, we were staying in a B&B where the person that owned the B&B convinced my mum that her breaking up with my dad and everything that had gone wrong with us moving to another country was entirely my fault and I was doing it on purpose. I think my mum already kind of thought that I was a bitch, and this woman that owned the B&B just went in on that and really validated and confirmed that to her. And they decided together that the only thing that would ever straighten me out and get me to be a proper person and make me stop being such a horrible manipulative little bitch, I was 13 at this point, the only thing that was going to straighten me out and get me to be any sort of nice person in their eyes was going to Catholic school, and the only way they thought I was going to get into the Catholic school that was local was by going to church. And I'd been raised very, very atheist. My parents actively called religious people stupid. They'd be who believes in a silly little man in the sky? And I have my own personal beliefs, but I'm no longer willing to be horrible to religious people, But I was very much raised with they're idiots, they're the silliest people in the world. Why would you ever want to associate with someone that believes in a magical, mystical man in the sky? So as a 13, 14-year-old, that's still what I thought. That's what I'd been raised around. That's what I'd been told by my parents who I trusted, And all of a sudden, they want me to go to church and sit there and respectfully listen to this absolute bollocks. no. And I put my foot down and I was like, I'm not going. And on Sunday morning, my mum woke me up and she was like, you're going to church. And I was like, I'm literally not going to church. I'm not doing this. And we were staying in a B&B. So she undressed me. Like I say, I was 13 at this point. We'd just moved back to the UK. Was I 13? I was going to be starting in year 9 that December. Like we came back around Christmas and I was going into year 9 when I went to school, however old that is. She pulled my clothes up, like pyjamas off me, and like pulled other like church clothes, I suppose, onto me, physically dressed me while I was like laying on the bed and be like, I'm not doing this, I'm not going, which obviously physically hurt me and is really fucked up and just bizarre. And by this point I was like, they're not, listen, like I don't have another option here. Like, my only option is to do what I'm told and to follow along with this. And, you know, by this point, I'm a teenager and I'm like, I'm not fucking doing this. So I run down the stairs and lock myself in the bathroom and I'm like, deal with this now, bitches. My mother breaks down the door, like breaks the lock off the door swings in and hits me. She grabs me by the hair and pulls me down the stairs when my 2 like 8 and 9 year older than me brothers are waiting for me. So I've got 2 men in their 20s waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs to take me by either arm and march me to church and sit down with me on either side of the pews. You know? Like, when I say that I did not have the option to say no or to like have a meltdown to be an autistic person, that was like, it was essentially abuse, like it was essentially ABA for my own family, you know? Like I wasn't given any sort of optional environment to be an autistic person, to be an autistic child. Any sort of meltdown or overwhelm that I experienced, I was told I was being silly, I was told I was having a tantrum, I'm being this or that, and it's never autistic, you know? There's never any valid reason, there's never any sort of emotional comfort or helping me out or another option to anything. And I really don't think people realise the degree to which, like, I think this is true for a lot of other autistic people, where it's like, I'm not like the functioning level that was expected of me, I'm not the functioning level that other people decided I was, but I didn't have any other option than to be that, you know? Like, I couldn't be anything else. I had to just do it. So as you can imagine, with that being my home life, I wanted to move out as soon as I possibly physically could, which meant moving in with my 21-year-old boyfriend when I was 16. And it was a very similar situation with him. Like, I very quickly hit my first big burnout there and had probably slightly under a year where I just barely got out of bed. I couldn't do anything. Everything was just way too much and so overwhelming. Like, literally everything. Like, thinking of the steps to make a cup of tea was too much. I don't remember what I ate or drank during that period, to be honest. Mostly I remember ordering pizza when I could and trying to make that last like 3 or 4 days, because I could not imagine doing the steps of making myself a sandwich. You know, like, I could not conceptualize the steps that I needed to partake in to have the final result of something to eat. Like, I couldn't do it. It was not there. I massively felt like I had to like recover from my childhood and recover from see, I was 16 and I was thinking like, I need to recover from the fact that I'm a grown up now and I need to be an adult now. I dropped out of college because like I couldn't brush my teeth. I wasn't getting a bus and a train to get into college, you know? And all of that already sucks big time, but I'd also moved in with my horrible fucking boyfriend who, you know, it's another one where I'm like, why did my parents let me date a 21-year-old when I was 16? Like, what the shit? But the entire time that I was in that burnout, it was, you know, it made so much fucking worse because he had expected me to just step in and become his mother. And that was also what my family expected me to do, because my mum had been like raising me to eventually one day be a mother and a wife. That's my purpose as a woman, of course. So moving in with him, that was what everyone expected of me. So when he got a job and started going to work, everyone was like, well, yeah, you're supposed to clean the flat, you're supposed to wash his clothes, you're supposed to have his tea on the table, you're supposed to do all these things. And there's a point to which I agree, like if one person's working and the other isn't, then yeah, I'm going to take on the vast majority of the household things. Don't know how gross I want to go here. You know, like, it's a case of like, I was washing shit out of this man's boxes because he didn't wipe his own ass properly. Like, that's the level of man that we're talking about here. And I couldn't keep up with all of the demands on me. I could barely look after myself. I was still literally a child. And all of a sudden I had to fully look after him and look after a house, and we had cats, and it was just so fucking much all of a sudden, you know? And every single night he would come home from work and he would just start going off at me, you know, you weren't awake when I left this morning. No, I know. Like, I don't have any energy. I'm literally still in bed. You haven't cleaned anything up. I haven't made the fucking mess. You know, like that was one of the big things for me, was I wasn't getting out of bed. You know, like any mess that was there was mess that he had created. But it meant that every single night for months of my life, he just came home and screamed at me and screamed at me and screamed at me, and I would be in tears. I would be like hyperventilating. I would be having meltdowns. I'd be telling him like, I'm trying my best. I'm sorry that this is my best. Like, I'm so fucking sorry that this is how we're having to live. And he didn't have to fucking live like that. That's what happens when you get with a 16-year-old. Like, maybe don't get with a child when you want a wife. Like, fuck. You know, and it took me a good while, because you can't just turn off autistic burnout, you know? Like, I think that was... like, that's the experience that's made me really realise that, like, I can only push it off for so long, and I can't just turn it off once it's here. Because if I could have fucking just turned it off and gotten my shit together, I would have. I didn't want to be in this situation of having this man scream at me and scare shit out of me and put me into, like, absolute fight or flight every single night of my life. And then, like, it was the type of abuse as well where after all of that, I would then spend the next 2 hours comforting him, telling him that he's not a bad person, he's not a horrible person, and obviously he just can't help being this awful to me when I'm so difficult to live with, and it's all my fault, really. You know, like, it was fucking exhausting. And I just had to live like that, you know, like, I didn't know what else to do. My parents were like, well, you're in a relationship now, you have to make it work. And he was like that, and I didn't have any outside friends, I didn't have anybody else in my life. So I just fucking dealt with it until I got to a point where I could keep the house clean and I could have his dinner ready when he got home. And I spent the next, like, 7-8 years putting my absolute all into, like, being that person for him. And it's another one where, like, it was exhausting. I could barely keep up with it. And even, like, doing my absolute best and seeing how much better it had gotten, you know, like, I kept it genuinely neat and tidy and nice to be in space. I was making his dinner every single night. Like, I really fucking, like, got myself so sorted in so many aspects to be able to be the person that he wanted me to be. And it was just never, ever good enough, obviously. Like, it was never going to be. But it was another situation where I was just like, I don't feel like I have any other option here. Like, my only option is to be the capable level that they think that I am. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know what else to do, because, like, when I'd been at the functioning level that I actually was, I was just getting screamed at for like 4 hours every night. And I stayed in that situation for a very, very, very long time. You can go back and see my videos. It was like 2022 or 2023 that I finally moved out from that situation, and I've been doing, like, the reflecting and figuring myself out and figuring out myself as an autistic person and all the stuff that's come since. And it's that stuff looking back where I'm like, yeah, I had no other option than to learn to mask in a way that made myself seem much more capable than I really am, and convince the people around me that not only was I capable of what I was doing and what they were asking of me, but that I was somehow capable of much, much more, and just not pushing myself and just not trying hard enough. And the reality is that my capability was a mask. I didn't have it. It wasn't backed up with anything. It was purely forcing myself to do exhausting actions in order for other people to look in and be like, okay, you're doing decently, good job. Not that anyone ever fucking told me good job. It's not even like I got positive fucking affirmation. It was just so that no one would fucking scream at me. You know, I was just avoiding being abused by putting on a mask of capability so that people wouldn't fucking shout at me or just scare shit out of me or be horrible to me, you know? And my capability and my actual functioning level isn't fucking up there, and it is so damaging now as an autistic adult trying to live independently with, like, fucking dead parents and everything. And everyone that I talk to is like, but you seem so capable, but you can make YouTube videos. And it's like, I'm alone in my bedroom with my cat talking to a phone. Like, I can't even do this properly in front of my best friend in the world. Like, I just thinking about talking like I do in front of other people makes me start to stutter and not be able to do it. Just the thought of it, like, I can't do it. And I think that's also where it ties in with, like, autistic people having spiky skill sets and stuff like that. But it's just, yeah, and I think as well, people like to think that it's me being, like, really humble or just not having enough self-confidence or not enough self-esteem. And, like, no, this is me having the confidence in myself and having the esteem in myself and having reflected and looked in on myself and tried to figure myself out so hard. It's a absolute, like, massive collaboration of all sorts of different efforts in my life to be able to say, no, I actually can't do that thing. I'm actually not capable of that. I actually don't function in this way. Like, that's actually me taking a really big stance and using a hell of a lot of self-confidence to be able to tell people that, just to not be taken fucking seriously, because as an 8-year-old I wasn't allowed to have meltdowns. You know, like, that's what it boils down to, and it's very frustrating and quite upsetting, and it definitely makes it more difficult to gain support and get any actual help as an autistic adult. That felt like it turned into a bit of a rant, but like, maybe it should be ranted about, you know? Like, it doesn't feel fair. It's not fair, you know? Like, I'm someone who's very, very, very reluctant to ever say that anything isn't fair. Because as a child, I believed that things should be fair. So when things weren't, I would call out, like, that's not fair. That's unfair. Like, that's not okay. And I was just constantly told, well, life isn't fair. Get used to it. And I have. Like, I have. And I still think that it should be. Like, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's been a bit of a heavy one. Sometimes they gotta be. I don't have anything more to say, obviously. That's why I'm just like rambling and bollocksing here at the end here. Bollocksing's a word now. You can follow me here, like and subscribe if you want to. I'm trying to do a nice little mix of like burnout content and general autism content and actual fun stuff. Let me know if you like it. Let me know what you've enjoyed. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, you can follow me over on TikTok, Instagram, or Blue Sky as well. And I also have Patreon and Ko-fi if you want to follow me there, but there's no pressure. You don't have to do what you want. Obviously, if you join the Patreon, you automatically will be able to find the Discord link, I believe. If you want to join the Discord and you don't want to pay for my Patreon, that's entirely understandable and okay. You can message me, but please let me know if you're over 18, and please don't join if you're not over 18. I really need a space for autistic adults. I'm tired of everything having to be child friendly. Whoever you are, wherever you are, if you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.